they didn't even have shoes to wear on their feet. My oldest brother, he finished in a pair of football spikes and a suit that was too small for him. That's what he had to finish in. And then it got so bad until they couldn't provide shoes for him, they'd have to polish their feet to make people think that they had on shoes.
Well, did all your brothers finish school?
Not all of them.
Could you tell me the ones that finished?
Well, all of them finished except Lester.
Lester.
And it was 6 of them.
Well, your oldest brother, did he have to work?
Yeah, it was so bad too. He had to go on the CC camp to help my mother out. During these hard times, he went in the CC camp after he got out of school.
Yeah.
To help us out.
Let's talk about religion for a while. Did your family have any time to worship God? Or what did they believe in at this time?
They couldn't do nothing but pray because things were so hard until they really believed in religion real strong. And they prayed very hard.
Well, what type church did you belong to?
Well, it's a holiness church.
And the name?
Church of God.
Church of God. Was this church located near your home where you could have easy access to it, or did you have to walk a long distance? Or just describe the church as a whole.
Well, at that time, far back as I can remember, we had moved to Tulsa. And this church wasn't too far from our house. And we'd go and worship there all the time.
Well, did your church provide any type of clothing or food or medical expenses, all this? Did they help in any way to?
No, but the Catholic Church did. Father Bradley at that time was a big help to people.
Father Bradley, was he a white man?
Yes, he was a white man. He was a priest.
And what church was he?
He was of the Catholic religion.
What church?
St. Monica.
Well, could you tell me anything about the burial? Now, this is something that I've been kind of interested in. Like when a black man would die, would he have a funeral with, the coffin and all of this, or would they just put him in a box, or what did they do?
I don't know too much about that, but I think at that time they just put him in a box.
And was it a special place, or what?
I don't know that either.
Well, I'd like to ask you this question. As far as money, did you ever? How much money did you see at this time? As far as counting it all up, from the time you would say 5 to the time that the Depression was over, how much money would you say you saw in circulation?
I really didn't see any money in circulation because we didn't hardly have anything.
Well, your father, what kind of work did he do?
He was hauling boo-boo. What how much I said?
Miss Reed, what type of work did your mother do?
Well, she wasn't able to work because it was 12 of us children at home to see about. So she couldn't do anything but just be a housewife.
The job that your father had, did the government provide him with this job?
Yes.
He did. What program was he working on?
WPA.
What?
I forgot about that.
Well, when you were coming up at this time, was there any racial tension within the city at this time?
Oh yes, there was a whole lot of them.
And could you tell me some incidents that you know of and the feelings of the blacks during this time?
Well, it was where that they didn't mix at all. Blacks and whites didn't mix at all.
Did they have separate schools, separate playgrounds?
Yeah, they had everything was separate.
Would you say that the facilities were equal?
No.
They weren't. Now, during the Depression, I know that it was pretty hard, but did you ever have any type of recreation of any type?
No.
Well, what about the whites? Do you know if they did?
I don't know whether they did or not.
Let's talk about the situation in your own home. Would you say that because of the Depression, your family was closer, or was it just bedlam at all times? Or just how was your family at this time?
Well, we had to be close at that time because we couldn't do anything else. We just try to stick with each other.
Well, as far as your neighbors, were your neighbors friendly and helpful, or did they try to help in any way to better your situation?
They would help as much as they could, but they didn't have anything either.
Well, could you tell me of any stories that you know of that happened at this time about, as far as people having hard times or starving or anything like this, any type of story?
Well, we really had a hard time. I remember one time we were so hungry until we had a goat to die, and my mother barbecued him and fed him to us. We were just that hungry. We didn't have anything to eat.
Well, the goat, where did the goat come from?
Well, I don't know where the goat come from. He was there.
Did you grow vegetables, or how did you survive on just the soup and the animals that would die? I mean, was there any sickness in your family at this time?
No, it wasn't. Not at that time.
Then you were pretty lucky.
Yeah, we were.
Well, I'd like to know, what did you think of Herbert Hoover, the president that was in office at the time of the Depression?
Well, I just think he must have messed up somewhere.
Well, would you say that he was the cause of the Depression? Would you blame it on him, or what?
I imagine he was.
Well, what about Roosevelt? What's your impression of him?
He was a good man.
Well, when you say a good man, what do you mean? Did he lift the veil of depression away, or
Yeah.
he did? Now Roosevelt, he was a Democrat, right?
Yeah.
Well, would you say that because of this fact that he was a Democrat, that the Negroes, blacks, favored him more because he was a Democrat?
I don't know what to say about that.
Well, were your father, was he a Republican or Democrat?
He was a Democrat.
I'd like to ask you something about your brothers and sisters now. Your oldest brother, did he have to participate in any kind of military service at this time during the Depression, or was he obligated to stay at home? How did the government do that?
Well, he could have stayed at home, but he preferred to go in the CC camp to help out.
Well, how did the CC camp help? What did it do?
Well, they gave him so much a month, and he would send that back home to my mother.
How much?
I don't know how much it was.
But what about your living expenses, your rent, and your groceries? How much would you say your rent and all this would run?
I really don't know that either, because the house we was living in should have been condemned. I don't even know whether we was paying any rent or not.
What about your food? How was it running? Was it high, low, or what?
It was low, but it was on a low basis, but you didn't have the money in order to buy it.
Well, how many people would you say, if any, just actually died of starvation?
I don't know, but it was quite a few of them.
Was when a woman was getting ready to have a baby, did she have a doctor, or did she just have to deliver a baby on her own, or just get somebody to help her? What procedure did they go by in this?
Well, my mother had a midwife, and she would have to go for miles and miles away to get one. A lot of times, when the midwife would get there, the baby would already be born.
And what was the job of the midwife?
To cut the neighbor part.
And this was her primary job, just to cut the neighbor part. Well, did she charge any fee?
Not as I know of. $5, maybe about $5.
Well, as far as you are living in this house, would you say that the sanitation problem was a big factor in your living conditions?
It was terrible. We had an outdoors toilet, and we didn't have hot water or anything of that sort.
Well, this outdoor toilet, after it was overused, what would you do then?
So it would be someone to come in and haul it off.
And where would he take it?
To the dump.
Dump. Well, how many people do you know of were living? When I say living, I mean were living high. You say high on the hog. How many people do you know of at this time, blacks, that were living pretty good in the neighborhood that you were staying in?
I didn't know any of them that was living pretty good.
What about automobiles? Did any of them own automobiles?
Well, they did, but they were real late model cars, which they were old cars.
Well, did you ever see any whites driving cars that were earlier models?
I don't remember.
Can you tell me of anything that happened to you while you were going to school that was a reflection of the depression on your education?
No, I can't.
Could you tell me anything about your brothers and sisters that was of any significance at this time? Were all of them healthy?
No, I had a sister to die at this time with sores in her mouth and a very high fever.
How old was she?
She was 18 months. And the sores spread from her head to her feet. She was a very sick child. We didn't have money enough to get her a doctor or anything. So my mother would just use home remedies, and she died from this disease, whatever it was. I don't know.
Well, home remedies. What type of home remedies did she use?
She would use some kind of sulfur. She would burn a shoe heel, burn a shoe sole. She would burn this shoe sole and put it in a rag and dap this in her mouth. Try to get those sores out of her mouth since they didn't have money enough to have medical care for them.
Were there any doctors around at this time?
Yes, there were doctors, but we couldn't afford them.
Well, your sister with the sores in her mouth, was there any name for this disease?
Well, they said it was the thrush.
Thrush.
Uh-huh.
Is any cause? Was there cause for this?
I don't know what the cause was.
But she was 18 months
Uh-huh.
when she passed. Well, how did this affect your family? Did they feel that that everything was coming to an end for them, or did they just pick up themselves and keep going?
Well, I felt like everything was coming to an end for me because I loved her so dearly. We were so close together. And I thought that we had a well on the outside of the house, and I thought that she was in this well. And I'd go out there every day and try to jump off in this well to get her.
Well, you're saying it had a psychological effect on you?
Yeah, it really did.
Well, your parents, how did they cope with it?
Well, they were very sad on it.
Well, how long did your sister have this thrush?
I don't know. Not very long.
Did it come on all of a sudden?
Well, they just started noticing the sores on her tongue. Then these sores spread all over her body.
Well, did she have milk or any type of, any type of good food or something
Not like
this?
she should. She wasn't. None of us was being fed like we should have been fed.
Well, was there any type of welfare at this time?
No.
Okay. Well, just how could your mother, your brothers and sisters and your father, how could they make it on so little? What was their explanation for making it on just what they had?
Just with the help of God.
With the help of God. Then you're saying that the church that they belonged to had a definite role in their survival.
Yeah.
Then, at churches they take up offerings. At this church, were they taking up offerings from the people then?
No, they wasn't taking up any offerings. But sometimes we would look out on our porch and there would be a sack of food out there. We never did know who brought it or nothing.
Well, the person that was leaving the groceries, would you say that he was a member of your church or a close neighbor or what?
I don't know, probably just somebody that knew what a hard time we were having.
The person that was leaving these groceries, would you say that he was financially able? Was he living better? Or?
Yeah, he must have been living better.
Well, do you know of anyone in the neighborhood that was living that good to be donating groceries like this?
No, I don't know anyone in the neighborhood that was living that good. And we don't know where the groceries came from.
Well, do you have any other point that you'd like to bring up to close?
I want to feel like this. I think this is a cause of me being nervous right today.
The depression?
From what I've been through with.
You're scared you're gonna leave your mama and daddy. They're gonna get rid of it. They're gonna get rid of it. They're gonna get rid of it. They're gonna get rid of it anyway.
Is that a 7-1?
They're gonna get rid of you anyway. Come on, baby. They're gonna get rid of you anyway.
Yeah, it's Junior going somewhere.
No. You don't want to go nowhere. Unless my mama and dad is going.
Junior, will you give me a kiss?
I ain't passing out.
Did you see that?
Will you give me a kiss?
I ain't
She
passing
said,
out
Junior,
no
will you give me a
sugar
kiss?
today.
Give me a kiss.
I ain't passing out
Give
no
me a
sugar.
kiss, Junior. Junior, give me a kiss.
I ain't passing out no sugar
That
today.
nigga too sharp. I believe y'all seen them schools to go on the shop.
Give me a kiss, Junior.
Hold that cigarette better than
That boy jumped on me yesterday for nothing.
Try this, them girl.
He did. I was laying over here. He just come over and started beating me in my head,
Yeah.
pulling my earring.
Mm-hmm.
See, Mom.
What kind of car you got?
Say, Mama.
You know them things cost about $1,600.
Say, Mama.
Go hard.
You work out that little what? Yeah, she telling.
You was playing it.
What is that?